Good day everyone. Today we're going to discuss about the chapter 6 communication for various purposes. At the end of this video, we're expected to meet the following outcomes. Convey ideas through oral, audio, visual, and or web-based presentations for different target audiences, local and global settings using appropriate registers. Create clear, coherent, and effective materials. Present ideas persuasively using appropriate language register, tone, facial expressions, and gestures. Adapt awareness of audience and context presenting ideas. In this video, we are going to tackle about the purposes of communication, types of speech and public speaking, basic types of speech according to purpose and purpose of speech, and last is several ways of delivering speech. Now, why do people communicate? We communicate to express needs, to share ideas and information, to rescue, to express feelings, to build relationship, socialize, to ask questions, and to share experiences. We use communication to share information, comment, ask questions, express wants and needs, develop social relationship, and social etiquette. Now, communication is much more than wants and needs. The purpose of communication. Now, the purpose of communication is to inform, to express, to imagine, to influence, and to meet social expectation. Communication is made for numerous purposes. So communication vary depending on the purpose and the way the message are crafted and the intention of the sender. Say for example, in a mall or in a supermarket, a sales agent makes sure that the way that the product is promoted must click to the buyers. Or in a news anchor delivers information carefully that all of the important news the audience that all of the important news and facts stated clearly to avoid misunderstanding and confusion of the audience. Or in the other hand, a lawyer is design his arguments supported by facts or to convince the judge. Now, communication is made for numerous purposes. The purpose of communication can be informative, persuasive, and argumentative.
Purposes of communication. Informative communication. The main purpose of informative or expository communication or writing is to simply convey information punctually. Its goal is to invert new learning, enhance prior knowledge, confirm a concept, alleviate comprehension of an idea, or explain a process or procedure. Informative speaking generally centers on talking about people, events, processes, places, or things, informing an audience about one of these subjects without being persuasive is often a difficult task to complete. The main purpose of informative or expository communication or writing is to simply convey information punctually. Its goal is to input new learning, enhance prior knowledge, confirm a concept, alleviate comprehension of an idea, or explain a process or procedure. Informative communication involves giving than asking. As an informative communicator, you want your receiver to pay attention and understand, but not to change their behavior. By sharing information, ignorance is reduced, or better yet, eliminated. The information value of a message is measured by how unrelevant the information is or the kind of understanding it provides the receivers. All speech has an effect that might enable individuals to self-persuade themselves. the line walk during an informative speech, as opposed to persuasive speech, is to make persuasion an implicit and obvious goal. Purposes of informative communication. The purpose of information communication is to increase the receiver's knowledge and understanding of a subject. Informative speeches are also entertain or change beliefs. A speaker whose immediate purpose is to impart information often uses amusing or dramatic illustrations to entertain his or her audience, thus holding their attention. Moreover, information, even if it consists only of facts, may lead to changes of belief, although such results may not be a part of the speaker's purpose. In information speaking, your main concern is to make the audience understand and remain the information you present. The teacher talking to a class or the manager of a department store explaining the duties of a job to staff members are both engaged in information speaking. How much the listener knows at the conclusion of a talk is the real test of the speech to inform. Tips in doing an informative presentation. First, stick to the facts. To talk only about what you are supposed to be talking about or what is the thing. Second is avoid repetition. When we speak or write, we often feel like kicking ourselves for repeating some words or sentences unnecessarily. The last one is make it clear. If you make something clear, you say something in a way that makes it impossible for there to be any clue about your meaning, wishes, or intention. Example of informative communication: presentation, visual aids, reports, informative speeches, lectures, training seminars, demonstrations, and lastly, informative essays.
Persuasive communication is any message that is intended to shape, reinforce, or change the responses of another or others. Such responses are modified by symbolic transactions, which are sometimes, but not always, linked with coercive force, and which appeal to the reason and emotion of the target. Generally, persuasion refers to such communicative activities that are mediated. If have strong persuasion skills can help you better perform your job. If you work in sales role, you may be called upon to persuade clients to purchase a certain products or service. Additionally, persuasion can be used to encourage and motivate your team members, supporting the overall success of success of the company. So, persuasive communication from the words persuasive, which means ga-persuade siya or like ga-convince siya. For example, sa akong gibasa about sa company nga ga-convince siya sa iyang mga clients para mopalit sa products nga ilang gina-produce. And the importance of persuasive communications. Persuasive communication can be impactful and with practice, anybody can develop these abilities. Below are some reasons why persuasive communication is important. The first one is charisma. When you can convince people easily and sell your vision, you are seen as an extraordinary personality. Many strong speakers are brand unto themselves simply because their words are their greatest selling tool. So, charisma, sometimes you can convince your listener by the style you use in speaking or by how you deliver your words. And the second is art of positive manipulation. Manipulation can be useful to tool if used with right intentions. One can use this talent to get customer to buy products or to motivate employees. So the second is art of positive manipulation. You should make sure that the listener will get your point or purpose for you to get their attention. And the last one is being relatable. When you speak like and understand people and their requirements, you immediately become relatable. This will draw people to you whether that be in a personal sense or a business sense in terms of customers. And the last one is being relatable. Make sure that they can relate the words that you will say for them to feel your message and that you will convince them. And example of a persuasive communication is research and business proposal, persuasive massage, and TV commercial, periodical advertisement, social media, and tips doing persuasive communication is be objective but subjective. Abandon negative stereotypes, focus on being helpful, provide context, plan for overcoming resistance, ask open-ended questions, use your brain, not your heart. And the last one is cite.
Argumentative communication. Argumentative aims to gain adherence from the audience. People argue to gain assent for their positions. The world is filled with ambiguous situations that argument attempts to render more certain. Argumentation, listener and audience-oriented activity even if the audience is just one person. Ultimately, the wishes to persuade the audience that they act on the advanced claim, whether it is to encourage or gain support. Argumentative is a social process. Having an argument involves two or more individuals responding to one another's claim and support for such a claim. Argument is not simply restating the same claims and reasons. Rather, it's supporting, modifying, or defending positions accordingly. As process, arguments unfold based on the contributions of the dialogue participants. Argumentation aims to gain adherence from an audience. Argumentation is a listener and audience-oriented activity even if the audience is just one person. Ultimately, one wishes to persuade the audience the act on the advanced claim, whether it is encourage action or gain support. Examples of argumentative communication are debate, court hearings, and argumentative speeches. So, familiar naman sa tuwa ang mga example ani argumentative communication like debate, court hearings, and argumentative speeches. Okay.
Types of speeches and public speaking. Different types of speech according to purpose. The four basic types of speech according to purpose is to inform, to instruct, to entertain, and to persuade. These are not mutually exclusive of one another. You may have several purposes in mind when giving your presentation. However, the principal purpose of a speech will generally fall into one of four basic types. So we have four types of speeches. First is informative speech. So this speech serves to provide interesting and useful information to your audience. So in our own words, we all know that informative speech is to give information to our audience. So then those are the example of informative speech. For first, a teacher telling to student about earthquake. So that's one example of informative speech, no? So parya nang natay earthquake drill or mag earthquake drill. So di ba? Ang teacher mo inform sa ato nga muna atang angay buhaton kung mo abot man galing or naay earthquake nga mahitabo. So informative speech. So kabalo na tanong kung pag nay ka na informative speech, pag makadungog tag informative speech, so makabalo na ta sa atong kaugalingon nga ang informative speech is to give information to audience. So second, demonstrate speech. Demonstrate speech, this has many similarities with an informative speech. A demonstrate speech also teaches you something. The main difference lies in including demonstrate how to do the thing you're teaching. So example of demonstrate speech is how to start your blog, how to bake a cake. So demonstrate from the word demonstrate, demonstrative, demonstrate. So magdemo ka, for example, magbake ka og cake. Magbake ka og cake, 'di ba? 'Di ba ano kanang mag-demo ka or unsay imong angay buhaton or unsay first nimo nga buhaton para makagama kag inana, 'di ba na siya mga process or pamaagi dayon pag magkuan, like for example mag-vlog ka then ga-bake ka og cake, 'di ba imo siya i-demo kung giunsa nimo siya or unsay imong mga ingredients para mo na siya result, mo na siya taste. So that's what we call a demonstrate speech. So second is, a third is persuasive speech. A persuasive speech works to convince people to change in some way. They will do something or to start doing something that they are not currently doing. So persuasive, dapat ma-change. Like for example, imong kaugalingon dapat imong i-change or na kay mga bad nga gipanghimo sa imong kaugalingon. So persuasive, you must do to be a good, di ba? Kana for example, kana example, improve your health through better eating. So namang gud time nga daw lami pa kay katulog kay kana magpulaw ta, tagdugay ta matulog. So ang dapat nato buhaton is usbo nato natong batasan nga dugay ta matulog, no? Dapat magsayuta para ma-maintain nato atong healthy sa atong body there. Mo kaon ta sa eksakto nga oras, di ba? So for example put of first receive kana nata sa eskwelahan. Once mo ingon ang principal or ang teacher nga you must wear your uniform nga day or anag jud nga school ay anag jud nga mga tuiga. So di ba? Atong tumanon jud matuman jud nato siya para ra pud sa ato ang unity. That's all.
My topic is all about entertaining speech. Entertaining speech are speeches designed to cultivate an audience attention and regale or amuse them while delivering a clear message. So, entertaining speech is fall into entertaining category or are designed to inspire or motivate our audience to do something. So, entertaining speech is aimed to amuse audience members and put them in a jovial mood, although it can also inform or persuade. Entertaining speech, in short, is communicate a clear message, but the manner of speaking used in entertaining speech is typically different than a traditional informative or persuasive speech. Example of entertaining speech is, for example, naa ka sa isa ka grupo dayon for entertaining speech nga dili madisturbo imong mga puyo, mo excuse ka for example, excuse me for any questions, or also the family is our ending foundations. Next is there is some of example of public speaking. What is public speaking? Public speaking is when you stand before an audience and deliver a speech on a topic. This could be at a formal or an informal occasions. For many people, speaking in front of the large audience is a daunting task. So it is a quite natural to become very nervous. With effective training, this fear could be overcome. So, ang pasabot ani sa public speaking is Here the tips to improve a public speaking skills when it comes to speak other people. You must be to know how to audience a good listener. Your audience to be good, be practiced, and also speaking is public speaking is one of the group of people in our organized way to give informations, influence, or persuade, or to entertain the listeners. So, mao na yung pinaka-importante once nga naata sa katawhan, kinahanglan jud ta mamati para masabtan nato kung unsa gi-deliver sa message o unsa po nato pag convey ilahang message. Dahil masabtan po nato ilahang mga gipasabot. The example, cyberbullying ay isang pag-aaway or mga bata nga pagkawala ng respeto sa mga tao mo na ang public speaking. There are three major differences between conversation and public speaking. First is public speaking is more highly structured. So public speaking is more highly structured. For example, in public is more highly in sa karon is sa pampolitiko nga mataas ang mga struktura sa atoa karon. Next is public speaking is inquires more formal language. So, Next is public speaking, a different method of delivery. That's three public speaking. Thank you.
Types of speech according to purpose and purpose of speech. The four basic types of speech according to purpose are to inform, to instruct, to entertain, and to persuade. These are not mutually exclusive of one another. You may have several purposes in mind when giving your presentation. However, the principal purpose of a speech will generally fall into one of four basic types. So, the first type is informative. This speech serves to provide interesting and useful information to your audience. So, informative speech gives information to an audience using verbal descriptions and sometimes accompanying visuals or demonstrations. Informative speaking generally centers on talking about people, events, processes, places, or things. So, example, a teacher telling students about earthquakes, a student talking about her research, or a computer programmer speaking about new software. So the second type is demonstrative. Is one in which you will demonstrate to your audience how to do something. It is easiest to decide on a topic if you start with a verb. Demonstrative speech is one in which you demonstrate to your audience how to do something. Or it is easiest to decide on a topic if you start with a verb. And demonstration speech, a type of informative speech intended to teach an audience how to complete a task. So the example of demonstrative is how to start your own blog, how to bake a cake, or how to write a speech. The third type is persuasive. The goal is to change the attitudes, beliefs, values, or judgment of your audience. If you look back at the idea of motive, in this speech, the prosecuting attorney would try to convince the jury members that the defendant is guilty beyond reasonable doubt. Example, become an organ donor. Improve your health through better eating. Television violence is negatively influencing our children. So the fourth type is entertaining. The after-dinner speech is a typical example of an entertaining speech. The speaker provides a pleasure and enjoyment that makes the audience laugh or identity with anecdotal information. So the entertainment
is a form of activity that holds the attention and interest of an audience or gives pleasure and delight. It can be an idea or a task, but is more likely to be one of the activities or events that have developed over thousands of years. So example is excuses for any occasions, explaining cricket to an American, and things you wouldn't know without the moves.
Conducting an interview. So let's get started. First, open with a greeting or an orientation. This is quite so basic in doing an interview. Start it by saying good morning, good afternoon, it's nice to meet you. How's it going? This show respect, keeping calm, and a sign of a good start. In addition, you also need to know the rules and guidelines in an interview. Like for instance, since you are very conscious with time, might as well explain these things in the orientation that there will be 30 seconds allotted to answer every question. Therefore, this is already a heads up to the participant. Second is to perform several tasks during question and answer phase of discussion. Why do you think so? Well, having a list of questions to ask an interviewer makes you look interested, and engaged for. It also gives you one final chance to further highlight your relevant qualities and experience. Lastly, is to close interview with a satisfactory conclusion. Closing the interview is successfully crucial to your any kinds of interview. How you end an interview should be tailored to suit the position, the general perspective, the style of the interviewer, and your own personal style. Remember to use a good interviewer to closing statement and question to help you to develop your own appropriate way of wrapping up the job interview. Leave your interview on the right note and make a lasting impression. Guidelines for the interviewer in conducting an interview. This sounds like interesting, but what do you think so? Are these guidelines to follow? Are all these guidelines meant to be followed? Now let's find out. First, guideline in conducting an interview to formally inform that you will be conducting or attending an interview. This emphasizes clarity and it basically tells a lot of first impression to the interview host and organizer. You just have to simply inform everyone either you will be conducting or attending an interview. Second, being punctual is the key to a good impression. And I agree with this. Punctuality is a massive factor in building first impression. A lot of people tend to have a shaky relationship with punctuality which can hurt their future career prospect. To leave a good long-lasting impression, being on time or better yet early show enthusiasm and interest in your role at the company or whatever field you're in. Third is to dress to impress. Even though we would like to think that our skills and ability gives us a job, appearance does count. First impressions are made within 5 minutes or meeting someone and help shape all future impression. So it is important to dress professionally. Next is always start with a strong handshake. There is no better a powerful interactive tool than a handshake in a workplace or business scenario as it speaks volumes about a person. Handshake consists of 3 different types of body language: eye contact, touching hands, and facial expression. With every single gesture and body language, the employer nor the interviewer is able to assess your confidence and personality. Fifth is to color your words with kindness. When we use our care and compassion for others through communication, we not only spread kindness to them, but we help create a domino effect that continues the cycle of being kind. Kindness to help people in your life or maybe you say walk in the street, your life today, and I tell them something meaningful and kind. Think about how it makes you feel and try to use the reaction too. We can all do a little bit better to become six. Avoid unnecessary stories. While some small explanation may be okay here, under explain too much intrudes on the story and the reader's experience. Explanation can cause listener to feel cheated that they weren't allowed to piece things together themselves. Annoyed like, okay, I get it. In other words, you shouldn't need to explain. Trust that your listener will get it or realize that you need to more fully develop and skin or characters of both. 7. Do not lose the eye contact while you're in an interview. Maintaining eye contact in an interview show that you are interested despite your lack of confidence. Direct eye contact in an interview demonstrate professionalism, convey trust, and polite. Lastly is always use the magic word, thank you. The magic word thank you brings miracles to anyone's. It is a simple courtesy that takes just a moment and everyday etiquette that costs nothing, not even effort.
Interview. An interview is a two-way party interaction in which one party has a specific, serious purpose and that usually involves the asking and answering question. Characteristics of an interview. A. Interview always involves two parties. For example is freewheeling and open-ended conversation. Kano, for example, nispan ka og jobs, nang kung trabaho, dayan di-interview ka, anak siya. Letter D. Interviewing is always purpose. Interviewing is always purpose. For example, kanang mo kuan kag trabaho, di ba kinahanglan ka nga interview for. Letter C. There is focus and asking and answering question. So kinahanglan kung may interviewon ka, kinahanglan nga mo-focus ra mo sa usa nga topic para kuan madali sabtan. Planning and interview. Define the goal. For example, sa define the goal kanang di ba? Ako chubby ko, ang sample nako sa define the goal is anang gusto ko nga mo magamay ko. So kinahanglan ako sundon kung unsa to ang kinahanglan para mo gamay ko. Identify and analyze the other party or respondent. For example is the judge ordered that the girl not be identified. Letter C. Prepare a list of topic. Kanang kinahanglan kung mo interview ka, before ka mo interview, kinahanglan nga ilista nimo ang angay nimo nga i-interview nga topic.
Delivering a speech. First, read. Second, memorize. Third, impromptu. 4. Extemporaneous. Read. The speech is written and the speaker reads the manuscript words for word to the audience. Like now, I am reading. Memorize. The memorized style of speaking is when the manuscript is committed to memorize and recited to the audience verbatim. A speech was a recitation. Kanang ga-memorize gid ka sa sa imong script. Impromptu. Theoretically, an impromptu speech is made up on the spot. It is an unprepared and unrehearsed often sermonation toast. Praise before meal and acknowledge an introduction, offering things and so on fall in this category. Extemporaneous. An extemporaneous such is the presentation of a planning and rehearsed speech using minimal notes. Kanang naka-prepared na siya kasi siya debate. For our presentation today, I hope you understand in our topic of communication for various purposes.